I've been collecting a series of books over the past few years called The 100 Greatest Books of All Time. It's basically the Western canon of classical writing. Everything from Homer to Shakespeare to James Joyce. Recently, I happened to be looking through the collection and pulled out a copy of the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin. And after flipping through the pages, I discovered that he had written down his daily routine inside. So I was immediately interested when I found this, and I decided that I wanted to give it a shot. And while I was doing that, I was going to document the entire process. And so here we are. For those of you who aren't super familiar with Benjamin, the short introduction I would give you is that he is the face you see on the $100 American bill. He's considered to be one of the founding fathers of America. As a sort of Da Vinci of his day, he was a polymath, being an inventor, scientist, philosopher, politician, writer, activist, and also a Freemason. And many have also said that he is the only president of the United States to have never been the President of the United States. And as a little bonus piece, as I was doing my history, I also found out that he kind of famously wrote an essay called Fart Proudly as an 18th century troll piece. He basically wrote this to the scientific community at the time, asking them if they could figure out a way to make farts not smell as badly. And the reason that he wrote this was because he felt that the scientific community at the time was growing to be too pretentious. So Benjamin Franklin's daily routine was broken down into 6 distinct stages. He would wake up at 5 a.m. and then conduct his morning routine for the next 3 hours until 8 a.m. Next, he would have his first work period of the day, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Following this, he would break for 2 hours, and then he would get back into another 4-hour work period until 6 p.m. Finally, he would end the day with an evening routine from 6 p.m. until going to sleep at 10 p.m. In addition to this, he would ask himself 2 questions every single day, one in the morning and one in the evening. In the morning, he would ask himself, what good shall I do this day? And then in the evening, he would ask himself, what good have I done this day? And as another layer on top of this, he would practice a virtue as well. He had a list of 13 virtues described in the biography, and he would pick one to practice for a week at a time, and he would record the results of this practice in a table. Each time he acted out of line with a virtue, he would put a little dot in the table to represent that he had essentially made a mistake of some kind. So the goal was to go an entire week without having any of these dots appear in the particular virtue that he was practicing. So I thought this added virtue element was pretty interesting, but the routine itself seems simple enough, right? I'm glad it was, actually, because I found this simplicity to be a form of what I would call structured freedom. And I'll talk more about what I mean by that later on in the video, but for now, let's go through how I actually experienced the routine. So we're currently going to take care of Justine's sister Michelle, hang out with her, and also see a little puppy. So this will be interesting to continue the routine here.
Egg down. No, egg. Oh my, come on. I just you're playing there for a minute so we can walk around a little bit. Oh, BG. Oh, BG.
Hi, Yoko.
Oh.
So Justine's mother just got a new puppy, so I spent the night before starting the routine getting in some good puppy therapy.
You gonna walk yourself, Yoko? Who's that?
That's my shoe.
Do you think Benjamin Franklin would have included time to play with puppies in his daily routine?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Michelle, throw us a peace sign.
Give us a big peace.
Throw us some deuces.
Peace.
Hey.
Hey.
Go to Steve.
Go, go.
Go.
After that, it was time to try and get a good night's sleep before the big day. Alright, it is the night before it all begins. I've got the autobiography right here, and I was just reviewing the schedule once again. Hopefully you can see that there. Just making sure that it is indeed 5 a.m. that he woke up at. So, yes it is. So we'll give it a shot. We'll give it a good shot. I'm just going to leave the camera right here. So that way when I wake up I can just roll over and press the record button and get a good shot of my reaction with that. So yeah, let's try and make it a good sleep. I'll see you in the morning. This is gonna be tough. I'm so tired.
Honestly, now that I'm up, it's not that bad. I actually feel kind of like energized in a weird way. I don't know if that's like kind of the same thing where I feel like you pull an all-nighter sometimes the next day, you feel like a bit more energy for some reason, but I kind of feel like that, so I'm excited to see how the rest of the day goes anyway.
One of the first things that Ben would do in the morning is he would get up and he would address what he called the powerful goodness. And this seemed to be what Benjamin Franklin referred to as kind of his form of God. He didn't really seem to be satisfied with the status quo of religion at his time, and so he kind of devised his own form of spirituality. I chose to do this in my own way as well and dedicate a portion of the morning to a meditation practice. After that, I said good morning to BG and then started to plan out the rest of my day. As I was doing this, Yoko, the new puppy, decided to come over and say her own good morning by trying to bite my computer charger. She is so cute. So that basically wraps up the morning routine of Benjamin Franklin's daily routine. But the other thing he would do in the morning is he would set aside some time for personal study. So this would be some type of study that he was working on unrelated to his professional work of the day. For me, I chose to research gardening because I'm trying to start a little vegetable garden this year. I thought it would be a really nice thing to do in the summer, especially if we continue to be locked down. I really like that he set aside this time for personal study because I often find myself researching and reading things that I'll then use for my videos. And don't get me wrong, I love doing that. I absolutely love it. But I also want to make sure that I'm reading and studying and learning things that are just for me. And by now, it was about 8 a.m., so it was time to start the first work period of the day. Now, I'm definitely the type of person who gets absolutely absorbed in their work. I completely lose track of time a lot of the time, and I also sometimes forget to eat and stuff like that. But luckily, I don't really eat breakfast, so I didn't have to worry about that. I've been, I guess, intermittent fasting since high school without even really knowing it. I always skip breakfast, and I just kind of eat lunch as my first meal of the day. I've always done that. That's always felt natural to me, and I still continue to do that to this day. All right, so I have just arrived at the time that Ben would normally break for his lunch break after having a pretty good work session, I think. It felt really productive starting so early in the day and having that like chunk of time specifically assigned for that work session. So I just finished up eating some food, but now something very important I need to do next. I discovered this secret within this place. The secret is what is contained within this jar. That's right, folks. We got some secrets. Okay, and now that my belly is full of healthy food, mostly healthy food anyway, it's time where Ben would usually either check his accounts, he said, which were definitely not social media accounts because those didn't exist back in the day, so I'm going to resist checking those for this kind of 2-hour period where he'd have his lunch. And he's mentioned that he would also read during that period of time. So I'm going to read, and this is what I will be reading. I got this actually for a gift from a Secret Santa around Christmas time. I haven't gotten around to reading it yet, but I know that it's widely regarded as a great book, so I'm super excited to actually start getting into this one. So I'm not going to lie, I did fall asleep while I was reading during that midday break, but honestly, I think midday naps are probably healthy for us, and that's because humans have been biphasic sleepers for most of our history, which means that we would sleep at night and then we would sleep again during the day for a short period of time. So that's actually what our natural sleep cycle is. Following another work period from 2 to 6 p.m., it was time to say goodbye to Yoko and BG and head back home to our place to finish the day. And it was at this point that I then kind of reflected on the whole day and then prepared to try and get a good night's sleep once again. All right, it's about 10 p.m., so that is a wrap for day one. One of the kind of issues I have with this routine is going to bed at 10 p.m. and then getting up at 5 a.m. That's only 7 hours of sleep, and for me, I just don't think that's enough. Especially after reading the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. That book that had a really big impact on me. Highly recommend checking it out because sleep is just so incredibly important. And I think I probably need like 8 hours of sleep, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes again today. And to fall asleep tonight, I will be joined by Words of Radiance, which is the second book in the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson. Highly recommend if you're into fantasy novels and that type of thing. Just excellent storytelling, excellent word building. Honestly, I'm really tired. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to read a chapter. So as I continued to practice the routine, I started making my own modifications to it in ways that I thought would benefit me more. For the most part, I really liked the morning routine the way he had it. I really liked the idea of asking yourself, what good shall I do this day? Because I thought that was kind of a nice way to set an overall positive intention for the rest of the day. And I also really like the practice of picking kind of like a virtue and then working on that. And I read that Benjamin Franklin, in his autobiography, said that he started practicing this and he kind of came up with this system when he was 20 years old because he wanted to try and reach moral perfection. He, of course, eventually realized that this was probably an unattainable goal, but he knew that he would at least be a better man for trying. There was actually an analogy that he wrote down in the biography that I thought illustrated this point perfectly. So there was a smith and there was a man who had an axe that he needed sharpened. So he brought this axe to the smith and asked him if he could sharpen this axe to the point where the entire head of the axe was as shiny and smooth as the edge itself. So the smith was like, that's going to be quite the job. I can do it for you, but tell you what, how about you help me out with it? How about you turn the wheel while I do the sharpening? So the man, he wanted his axe done this way, so he says, okay, I'll turn the wheel for you. So he starts turning the wheel and they get to work. But then the man realizes that this is a lot of work. This is hard work. And he's not so sure about continuing anymore. So he asks the smith, can we cut it short? Can we just end it here? But then the smith says, but the axe is only speckled at this point. It's not perfectly smooth like you wanted it. And then the man says, you know what? I think I like the speckled axe best. And so it is with many things that we practice. Although we first aim for perfection, we soon realize that a speckled axe will do just fine. One modification that I did make to the morning routine was to add a period of time for exercise. And so one of these mornings, I went for a nice early bike ride to the park. I happened to get lucky and choose a very good time to go because I was able to enjoy a full field of cherry blossoms almost entirely to myself. This was probably the most major modification that I made to the routine. Other than that, I really liked it. I ultimately just made some kind of other small changes, and I found this experience to be extremely valuable. As I said earlier, I think this routine is an example of what I would call structured freedom, and that's because instead of defining your day down to the most minute details, it instead basically breaks up the day into these blocks of time, which then you can fill with whatever is going to work best for you. But it's at least structured in the sense that these blocks of time each have their own purpose that they're trying to accomplish. It weaves in themes of self-development, spirituality, and personal study, all within a full workday. These are things that are very important to me, and I think that's why this routine resonated with me a lot. Everything except for the 5 a.m. wake-ups. Man, those are just way too early for me. But should we expect anything less from the man who coined the phrase, early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise?